Time to talk about automatic stabilization. So automatic stabilization is something that essentially reduces the size of the business cycle. So there's policies in place in modern economies that basically keep that business cycle fairly small in nature. Here we have with the red line, we could picture perhaps an economy without automatic stabilization. So we've got fairly big expansions and fairly big contractions. Right? So things are quite large. I mean, this is a very big wave. When we have automatic stabilizers in the economy, we can see that the economy does not have as big expansions and contractions. So the business cycle is essentially more narrow. Right? Rather than having great big booms and really terrible busts, the booms and busts are essentially very shallow in nature. So this is the picture of how automatic stabilizers work. So let's go ahead and discuss some of these automatic stabilizers and how they actually cause shallower booms and busts. The first one is your taxes. So in a lot of modern economies, there is a progressive tax system. Now, what progressive means is that the more money that you earn, the higher percentage of tax is taken away. So that is what is a progressive tax system. Now, the easiest way to understand how taxes are an automatic stabilizer is to think about the boom cycle. So during the boom cycle, people are going to earn more money. So ultimately, you've got more people at work, right? Unemployment is low, so everybody's working. You also have people being promoted, right? So people are earning higher wages because they're getting moved up, they're getting promoted to more or higher level positions. There's more stuff to organize. You also have people working overtime. So they're going to earn more money. So across the economy, people are earning more money. But because they're earning more money, they're actually paying a higher percentage of their money to taxes. And what this does is that it ensures that these people's spending does not multiply too much. That is, if you are earning more money and there is no tax system, then all of that extra money that you're earning will be spent. And that's going to multiply, causing the boom cycle to be very, very large. But if the government is taking bigger and bigger portions of the money that you're earning, then ultimately the amount of initial money that is multiplying will not be as high. So we can see that when we have a tax system, that initial amount of money is going to be lower than if we did not have a tax system. And therefore, the boom cycle is going to be lower with a tax system than if we did not have a tax system. So taxes actually decrease the size of the business cycle. Social programs are best understood if we think about the contractions. So during the contraction or bust cycle, unemployment is high and incomes are generally lower than what they otherwise would be, which means that there's not a lot of initial money to multiply. So during a recession, contraction, bust, whatever you might want to call it, but during these times, the government has social programs like, well, social assistance, welfare, different income programs. We've got the employment insurance, something we'll talk about when we look at unemployment. So we've got these programs that help people who are not earning that much money. So low income families, low income individuals. Now, normally, if there was no social programs, these individuals would have $0, which means that they would have no initial money to multiply. Whereas if we have social programs, this is going to give them the money that is necessary to buy consumption goods. And of course, the purchase of those consumption goods is going to multiply out. So instead of going into a deep contraction, a big contraction, because people don't have any initial money, we're going to give people some initial money. This will multiply out and cause that contraction to be less deep. So we're actually reducing the size of the contraction. So social programs help as automatic stabilizers. And lastly, we have flexible exchange rates. And this can be understood when we just simply think back to our fiscal policy. Remember with fiscal policy, when the central bank undertook a flexible exchange rate, that we had crowding out of net exports. Ultimately, when you have a flexible exchange rate during a boom cycle, so if Canada's economy is booming, it means that the exchange rate is going to be high, which means that net exports are going to go down. And when Canada is in a contraction, it means that the exchange rate is going to go down and net exports are going to go up. So during a boom cycle, net exports decrease, which means that the boom is not going to be as big as it otherwise would be. Right? The decrease in net exports is going to bring down that boom cycle. And similarly, on the other side, the increase in net exports is going to bring up a contraction cycle. And therefore, we see that the business cycle is less extreme. Right? It's going to be more shallow, smaller bumps. So, what did we see today? Well, we looked at monetary and fiscal policy. We looked at three situations for each: closed economy, flexible exchange rate, and fixed exchange rate. We mentioned that economists disagree about the effectiveness of active stabilization. And then we talked about those automatic stabilizers, so reducing the size of the business cycle. So this is an important thing. We don't really want to go through huge business cycles. This makes it harder for people to plan their futures. Right? Oh, I'm working, I'm just doing nothing but working. Oh, now I'm unemployed. I'm completely unemployed and I have no money, right? Well, a lot of time, but no money, right? Or they have a lot of money, but no time, right? So shallow business cycles are better.